Pasha Pyro, YNet 7. Thank you for tuning. The replay. So, this one is for North Carolina State, right? So, executive order was extended and revised. Executive Order 147, extended and revised as of yesterday at 5 p.m. How many people actually read it? Because I had a few people, in conversation was like, I don't really want to wear a mask, etc., etc., etc. And, it actually makes sense why one would say that, right? You got the awkwardness of it, the uncomfortableness of it. You got the fact that it's not healthy for the person wearing it to be wearing it for extended periods of time, breathing through the mask for various reasons. All these claims, and they all make sense. So I think it's only right that we look into that. So today it's gonna be mask at work. Okay. So the bottom line: how can you identify who? We're gonna stop there. Okay. So mask at work. The bottom line. All right. Let's get into it. Let's take a look at it. If you know anybody affected by this, share the video with them. Chances are it could help them. So, my opening question is, if these three people walked into your business tomorrow, do you know who they are? Would you say they are nurse? Would you say that they are kitchen people? Would you know where they were going? Are they laundry people? Do you know who they are? How can you identify? Okay? So let's look at the word identify. Actually, I think it's better to start with the actual executive order. So if you go down and you read this, it starts off with this background statement. It says executive order number 147, extension of phase 2 order and new measures to save lives in the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's look at this. They give you a whole bunch of pages of whereas and whereas and whereas, and right about the third or fourth whereas, maybe the fourth or fifth and, a lot of us gets tired and we don't read past that, right? So if you were to keep reading through all of this, etc., 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 and more, etc., you get to this. Section 2, okay? New requirements to wear face coverings. Executive Order 141 is amended to add the following section. Section 3.5, face coverings, for reasons and pursuant to the authority, which is who, set forth above the undersigned orders as follows. So the definition of a face covering means a covering of the nose and mouth that is secured to the head with ties, straps, or loops over the ears, or is simply wrapped around the lower face. A face covering can be made of blah, 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 right? could be made from household items such as scarves, bandanas, t-shirts, sweatshirts, or towels. I don't know about you. Have you ever tried to breathe through a towel? Never mind that. Let's just keep going, because here's what I want you to get to. Scrolling through all this, right? Whole nother section. Section C says exceptions. Okay? So we're going to take a look at the exceptions. And number 8 says it's temporary. You know, they got a bunch of exceptions here. Actively eating or drinking, strenuously exercising, blah, blah, blah. Right? Disability, medical, or behavioral condition. A lot of y'all may not even have realized that the medical concerns with wearing masks like that. I mean, I don't know. Look into it. Microfibers, you know, in your lungs. I don't know. May not be the best day after a while. But so we get down to number 8. It's temporarily, because the executive order kind of basically says anytime you're like outside of your personal space, like automobile or domicile, that you are supposed to wear this face covering in times where you can't maintain 6 feet distance, right? Which is potentially could be any time that you're outside of your personal space, right? Now, when you go to work, for those that go to work, how does this affect your work? Some of your jobs have already said, hey, you guys have to start wearing masks and right? But the question is, do you really? See? Because maybe a lot of people didn't take the time to read the executive order, so they haven't had time to make a proper decision, and maybe you're just acting off of impulse and or emotional attachment to beliefs instead of knowledge of, you know, things that we cover on Y97, controlling your emotions and acting in due diligence. So, with due diligence, right here, number 8, section C, number 8 says, if you're supposed to be wearing it all the time, right, then it says it's temporarily removing his or her face covering to secure government or medical services or for identification purposes. Now, this is critical. This is a critical statement for many people who go to work every day. It's temporarily removing. Now, temporarily, we'll get to that in a moment, what temporary is. But temporarily removing his or her face covering to secure government or medical services, right? But most important part of section C8 is for identification purposes. Now, down here at the bottom of section C, exceptions, it says anyone who declines to wear a face covering for these reasons should not be required to produce documentation or any other proof of a condition. So let's look back at C8. It's temporarily removing his or her face covering to secure government or medical services or for identification purposes. All right. Now we can get into the video. So when you see these people, who are they? What are they? If it's something bad, by the time you find out, it could be too late. So let's look at, we noticed that identification purposes. So identification, right? Identify means regard as the same. Okay? So the same is what? Right? And the identity we know is sameness or oneness. As what? As who you say you are. Now, temporary is of seasonal character, lasting a short time. So if you're supposed to be wearing this the whole time you're outside your house, when you get to work, under a condition I'm going to show you, you should be able to temporarily work, temporarily being the whole time you're at work, not wear your mask. If you're even going to wear the mask at all. That's the question, but that's between you and you. But when you're at work, here's how the executive order reads. So temporary is of seasonal character or lasting a short time. So you're only at work for a seasonal character or lasting a short time of your day. Short being anything less than the whole day, right? So season, right, of seasonal character. Season is proper time, as you see here, or a suitable occasion. So see, go back to the executive order. What it's really saying is for a suitable occasion, removing his or her face covering to secure government or medical services or for identification purposes. Now you might say, Pasha, I'm going to work. I'm not receiving government or medical services. Okay. But chances are, this ain't going to apply to everybody, but some of you go to work and you're under a suitable, where's my definition? A suitable occasion, or it's the proper time where, what was the wording it said? Identification purposes. Some of you work at places where you're under the seasonal character of identification purposes or protocol or policy or whatever you want to call it the whole time you're at work. How can you tell? The most easiest way to tell is if you have a badge that has your picture on it and your name. See, that's a visual identification of staff. And the reason why your company chose to do that in their little code of conduct is to explain, it says here, explain to your staff that badges provide a simple way to identify staff members and are particularly important if your business works with the public. Clients and customers can quickly determine if someone is a staff member when they need assistance. See, the reason why it has your picture on the badge is so that you can be identified at a glance. If it was per request, you could be asked, hey, who you are, and you could say, oh, hold on a second, let me pull out my ID and show you I'm such and such. See, here's me. But you have to wear that badge. If you work at a job where they say you have to wear this badge at all times, it's because they're saying you're on site and need to be identifiable at a glance. Someone can look at your badge, see your picture and your name, look at your face, and quickly identify if it's a match. Which, go back to the word identify or identify. Regard as the same. So what you're trying to do is at a glance regard as the same, basically that you are who you say you are. You're supposed to be on this premises and you work here, etc., etc., etc. Right? So ID badges typically include a photo or photograph an employee's name and title. If employees wear similar uniforms but perform different functions, a badge reduces confusion regarding roles. For example, employees in several hospital departments might wear scrubs, which can make it difficult for patients to determine if an employee is a nurse or a lab technician. Badges that clearly state job titles eliminate confusion. So go back to this question. Who are these people? Do you, if you're honest with yourself, do you really know? This is why there's 7. Go ahead and subscribe. Click the notification bell, because this is exclusive. You only get this type of conversation here, right? This ain't no crybaby stuff. This is the executive order itself. See? That's what this is. C8. Now, when you go to court and you present your own cases, this is just another example of Exhibit A. You know what I'm saying? So security, right? You got the badge with your picture on it. You're supposed to be able to be identifiable. So let your staff know that badges help keep you safe. Keep them safe while at work. Security can tell at a glance who does and doesn't belong in the building, and can question or remove unauthorized people. If your badges also track employee movements through the building, blah, 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 etc., etc., etc. It's just like I said. At a glance, you're supposed to be able to see who's who. So, that is why when you go to the executive order, it says, or for identification purposes. Are you with me? See? Now the top, here's the issue. The people, everybody in this picture over here has on some sort of identification, quote unquote, right? I'll just leave it as identification. Some sort of. The issue is that the people at the top, you can look at their badge, you can see their pictures, and you can see their name, and then you can look at their face immediately and identify or decide if you regard as the same. That face matches that badge, which is supposed to be authentic, assumed to be authentic, and that name is the person that you're looking at who matches the face on that badge. You can do that in the blink of an eye almost. The issue is when you look at the ones in the bottom, you see an even larger picture of a face. So the face on the picture is even bigger than the face on the badge. But the system itself is rendered useless because there is no way you can tell that those faces on their identifying piece of printout taped to their shirt or matches who's behind the mask. You see, that's the issue. So if you are employed at a site that has you wearing identification badges, then technically, per the executive order, section C8, due to identification purposes, you should not have to wear a mask while you are at work, because you would be in violation of your own company security policy, and or you are trying to you are in a, what's the word here, seasonal character, and or it's the proper time or suitable occasion for identification purposes. Because with a mask on, you cannot properly be identified at a glance. All you gotta do is read most of the time. See, this is the person on the left. It's a great picture because shout out to the state of Israel because the person on the left is supposedly who's the same person as the person on the right. Now, if they wrap their head up, you frowned upon it. Right? Before all this got started, now you're encouraging the mask. I actually wore a mask to a job one time. And just like 4 years ago, they actually told me, hey, you can't do that. And I was like, nah, you don't understand, man. When you're cutting this stuff, there's particles flying in the air, debris, and I'm trying to filter that out. I don't want to really be breathing that in, ... But they said, hey, look, you're scaring everybody. We can't identify you. We don't know who you are. And blah, 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 blah. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. So fast forward to today. This is why when you read the executive order, it says for identification purposes. So if you work at a site that requires you to wear an identification badge, then per executive order, section C8, while at work, you do not need to wear a mask. Now, I'm not an attorney. You read it with your own eyes. If you want an attorney, then call and seek counsel. But for your entertainment, this is what the words mean. And this is why. Because with that mask on, even though they got a much larger picture down here at the bottom, you cannot identify the person behind that mask. You do not know if that's really the person in that picture. Now, some of y'all want to wear the mask, right? That's on you. But some of y'all are being held seemingly against your will to do something. And I just want to I like to help people. So this is we could argue some of the other options here, like medical or behavioral condition. Like you just had some people just was running around with a whole campaign of I can't breathe. And then conveniently thereafter, you're being told to cover your face and mouth, your nose and mouth, how you normally breathe. So I can't breathe to actually being prohibited to breathe properly. Looks like that was some softening of the mental, right? So that you could accept this a little more, right? Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. So you could say it's a medical or a behavioral situation. You could argue that they're going to have some high dollar, fancy name, a lot of letters at the end of their name. Specialists come and say they found some study that says it's okay. Are we going to have enough dollars in our account to go and hire our own specialists to say that it's not? There's evidence and information out there. You probably have to do some research, etc., etc., etc. Number 2 is what it is. Actively eating or drinking is what it is. Strenuously exercising is what it is. How do you define strenuous exercise? Some people work in warehouses lifting stuff. Some people work in an active role. So where do you draw the line between their job being a strenuous activity? I don't know. But, that anyway, what I'm saying is a lot of these you could make the case for, but the one that would apply to everybody regardless of physicality and politics is for identification purposes. right? So take a look at that and just decide if it helps you. If you know somebody that's having to go through this, and they're in a situation where their job requires identification being worn, then share this video with them. Support the channel by sharing, subscribe, and YNet7 is content for the conscious consumer. I just want to, and then ask yourself and be honest with yourself. Be honest with those people around you. How many people were either decided they were going to wear the mask or that they weren't going to wear the mask without even reading why they were supposed to? Because here's the thing. If they trying to stop you or pull you, or I guess it wouldn't be pull over because if you're in your automobile, that's your personal space. But if they try to stop you and you don't have a way to articulate it, then you can't defend from receiving, let's say, whatever ticket or policy enforcement they're trying to give you. Now, those of you that know that if you're in a different jurisdiction, the ticket don't matter, and you just let them know of the notice of negative environment, right? But if you're not, and you haven't read this and you decided to not wear the mask, I understand. But if you decided to wear the mask and haven't read this, I also understand. Because what you need to know is that meant that you made a decision without knowing, based on a belief. Just accept that. So for the people in this situation, I work for credit cards and banks, the credit cards of banks. So if you're in a call center, if you're in a bank, if you're at certain places, list goes on, and you have an identification card, then and you're in the state of North Carolina at least, refer to section C8. Okay? And that may help you guys out. So, Pasha Pyro, YNet7. I guess we can pull a quick card on this just to see something that has to do with this. You know what I mean? It's a shame because a lot of people are just going and do stuff without having any idea what or why they're doing it. And then when you find out maybe 10 years later that all the people do have health problems now because they wore a mask for 40 hours a week for 2 months, you know what I mean? It'll be too late. So if you want to help out the channel, or if you're interested in getting a personal tarot reading, use the Cash App, YNet7. If you just want to support what's going on here, Google Pasha Pyro, play some of them tracks, go to YouTube, play some of them tracks, go to YNet7, play some of the videos. That's free. You know what I'm saying? That all it costs you is your time. So we're going to get into the card here. Hopefully that helped some people, because I know a lot of people are frustrated and not looking forward to going in on Monday. So share this to as many people as you can between now and Monday. Make their day, help their life. They'll thank you for it. Okay? So it's 210. Let's see what we got here. 1, 2, 3. Give me a second. And we have the Hierophant. Right? 1 second here. Trying something new for y'all. See if this works out better. Okay. Hold on. All right, it's sideways, but at least now you can see the card in great detail. I'll perfect it for you next time. So the Hierophant, right? Conservative attitude, good advice, education, family, clan, kin, religion, tradition. Okay? So if you're a company, if your family, right? If your family that you work, your work family has a tradition of identification, then this applies to you. Section C8 on the executive order. Read it. Get familiar with it. Right? The events are implied subject. Okay? Because it's implied that you're supposed to wear this mask by many people who didn't read this. And it's not a blame game. It's your duty to educate them that you read it and you're familiar with it. And because you're in an identification, what is it? A temporary, which is a seasonal character, right? And season is proper time or suitable occasion of what? Section C8 says identification purposes, right? Then you're not required to wear a mask. So you might obtain, it has attainment of value. When we go back to this card. Okay? Attainment of value. So you might obtain the value of the subject, right? Implied subject, if you took time to read it. So this is the best real life example, current event example. That's the same reason why many people don't understand the law. And they don't see the value in the current system because they don't understand it. They never took the time to read or review it or study it. They spent their free time talking about sneakers and sports and everything and anything else. But when it comes time to show them what you know, you don't, because you don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. And that's a greater risk than any supposed virus. Okay? Because that is the virus, ignorance. So, all right. So back to it. So, attainment of value comes when you read the implied subject. That's a vice, right? So your family values, okay? How many of you are doing the same thing that these companies are doing? Because if your work family values has always been to feel quote unquote secure, right, by wearing these badges, then wearing these masks are now affecting your tradition, your company's values. And they're putting you at risk because at the end of the day, if this is a nursing, let's just say you're a nurse. And I understand like there's times where nurses and doctors wear the mask and it wasn't when they came out to say hello to you. You know what I mean? But now it is. So the thing is, what I'm getting at, if you're in surgery and they're cutting you open, yeah, they've been wearing masks for decades. That has been the family tradition. But if you're at an environment where you wear identification badges, and we'll use this picture here on the bottom so that this other one makes sense. This person walks in. They're actually told nurses to, here, let me show you this. Let me show you this real quick, because this is like the danger. of compliance sometimes. But hold on. I should just do it online. Anyway, well, I'll just tell you. So they told the nurses, you might have read this article, not to wear their uniforms home and to hide their identification, right? Because that's proof that they already know the dangers if C8 is exploited. Because if someone knocked a nurse over the head, male, female, whatever, took their uniform and take their identity badge, right? And they show up like this, because now you're not supposed to have your ID out, and even if you do, like this, they can't tell if it's you or not, or you can't tell if it's really that nurse or not. So now you could have people coming in that you really don't know who they are. And I'm not saying that in the back of your mind you're really concerned about this, that as actually happening, but what it is that because you have an identification system, you're under identification purposes the whole time you are at work. So that per section C8 is a seasonal character, or you're of a seasonal character, lasting the short time that you're at work. It's the proper time and it's a suitable occasion for you to be able to be regarded as the same as your ID badge, that you not wear a mask. So, business or work, you know what I mean? We're dealing with folk craft, hereditary, professionals, business that requires traditional attitudes. So you need to maintain your traditional attitudes at work, which was you have a work badge so that you can be identified. That means you cannot have your face covered while you're at work, so that you can be identified. So the warning is, don't be too proud of what you have achieved. Never be a fanatic of truth. Don't listen to wrong advices. And the result is a deep inner trust in oneself as the result of belief in the highest aim. Pasha Pyro, YNS7, thank you for tuning. The replay.